Hot wire versus barbed wire. We talk management strategies, updates on cattle Ponzi schemes, cattle sales, and lots more. Crew, let's ranch it up. Good day, everyone, and thanks for riding with us on this all-new episode of the Ranch It Up Radio Show. I'm Jeff Tigger Earhart.
And I'm Rebecca Warner, a.k.a. Beck.
A big thank you goes out to our partners, RanchChannel.com, Transova Genetics, Axiota, Multimin, and Lactapro, Stockman's Livestock Exchange, the American Gelbvieh Association, Imogene Ingredients and Pharmatan, Westway Feed Products, Medora Boot and Western Wear, Allied Genetic Resources and Allied Feeding Partners, LivestockMarket.com, EquineMarket.com, AuctionTime.com, RFD TV, Wrangler, and this fine radio station. Cow Country News, you know, the cow stuff.
Our first story out the chute, it's a hot one, and if you recall, back in January, we reported of an accused Ponzi scheme that rocked the cattle world. Here is an update on that. A North Dakota rancher said he is working on a deal for a small group of investors to take over a cattle and beef marketing business that was labeled a Ponzi scheme and owes North Dakotans millions of dollars. Wiley Bice, who ranches near Killdeer, North Dakota, said the group is close on a final price for Texas-based Agridime, with the goal of making it an asset to North Dakota ranchers. Bice said he hopes the group can close on a deal by July 1st of 2024 to take over Agridime facilities in Texas, Arizona, and Kansas. He said he hopes North Dakota can supply about 60% of the cattle that the business will need, which is about 10,000 head per year. Bice, who is among the investors who lost money with Agridime, said the group includes a former business partner of his who was in Texas and would come out of retirement to help manage the company. In December, the Securities and Exchange Commission accused the company of operating as a Ponzi scheme by taking money from new investors to pay off previous investors instead of investing that money into cattle. The cattle were to be fed until reaching market weight and then processed. Agridime would then market the meat directly to consumers. Bice said it was not likely to move any operations to North Dakota, instead using the existing warehouses in Texas, Arizona, and Kansas that are closer to large retail markets such as Dallas, Fort Worth, and Phoenix. Bice said it is possible the company would again involve Taylor Bang. Bang is a longtime cattle broker from Killdeer, North Dakota, who also operated as a sales agent for Agridime. Bice commented by saying he's a very good salesman, and I sure hope he can stay involved with us. The North Dakota Securities Department said Bang earned $6 million in commissions from unregistered cattle investment contracts through Agridime. Bang said that the figure was way high. Agridime offered people the chance to invest in the cattle industry, offering the returns of as much as 30% without having to do the work involved with raising and marketing cattle. Agridime said the money would be invested in calves that would be raised for beef sales, but investors were not actually buying cattle or given information, such as ear tag numbers, about the calves they were investing in. The Securities and Exchange Commission said in its complaint that Agridime executives started using the investment money for other purposes instead of investing in cattle, turning the operation into a Ponzi scheme. A Securities Department official estimated that North Dakotans have lost about $40 million in Agridime investments. Now, we have a lot in regards to this news story on our website in the show notes. Highly encourage you to take a minute and read about it because it is a very interesting read. Again, our website is ranchitupshow.com. Again, ranchitupshow.com. This has been Rebecca Warner, a.k.a. Beck, for the Ranch It Up Radio Show, and that is a look at what is making the news.
Now, hold on here. I'm not going to let you off the hook just yet. So, what are your thoughts on this Ponzi scheme deal? Can we say it on air?
You're seriously, exactly, going to put me in the hot seat on air. I feel like one of those politicians that when you ask them a question, they don't want to answer.
Now, we broke this story January, right? I think it was right after the first of the year that this all came to light.
This came to light, yes. We broke this right around the first of the year.
Pretty close.
End of 2023. It was a hot one. Me and my CSI skills, Tigger, I have been following this very closely, and they have kept this tight-lipped, which I can understand. The Securities and Exchange Commission being involved.
There's so many details, and like we said, really go to the show notes and read this, because it really is an interesting read of where they're at. I know that there was individuals that had to analyze what assets were available, because we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars that are owed in this.
When you're talking over $40 million is still owed to North Dakota ranchers alone.
That's just one state. That's one state.
And
we're talking many other
states
states that are involved in this. We received a number of emails after we broke this story, people asking questions. We dug as far as we could, and we kind of came up on a dead end. It just got very quiet, which I understand why, because of all of the analysis that needs to go into this. So are you kind of at the point of, hurt me once, shame on me, hurt me twice, shame on you sort of thing? Are you just a little skeptical of saying, okay, I want to see the details, I want to see the fine print, I want to see a new mission statement, marketing plan, financials, everything of how this is going to go?
Well, first off, that's how I work in the first place in any deal I do. I do my homework, and all I can say is a warning to everybody out there. This was exactly one of those where you got bit once, don't get bit twice. Please do your homework before you invest.
Due diligence.
Yes.
Looking at this. So, okay, we're going to follow this one closely, but like I said, go to ranchitupshow.com. We've got the whole article there, and it is trending as we speak. So this is a great time for us to take a commercial break. You and I are going to talk about this.
I finally get off the hot seat.
I'll let you off the hot seat. We're going to visit more about this. But coming up on the Ranch It Up radio show, hot wire versus barbed wire, the pros and cons, and how do you break cattle to a hot wire? We're talking management strategies and practices on the Ranch It Up radio show, and we'll be back. At Allied Genetic Resources, it's all about commercial customer success.
We see that charge, we understand that charge, and we're going to use all the tools we can to get there.
To maximize heterosis, purchase your next herd sire from an Allied Genetic Resources partner. Just head to AlliedGeneticResources.com.
Cattle market reports to various news stories. The Tri-State Livestock News covers it all. Check us out at tsln.com. Subscriptions or advertising, call Tracy Hawk at 406-951-3211. The Tri-State Livestock News, what ranchers read.
The quick, fast, easy, all-in-one location to look at bull sales. Head to ranchchannel.com. Check it out on your phone. ranchchannel.com. All the information on one page at your fingertips. Videos, catalogs, everything. ranchchannel.com. Don't let nutrition be the missing piece. Nutrition is a key piece to the puzzle of cattle production. As forage quality diminishes, your cow herd's nutritional needs do not decrease. Westway's liquid feed provides protein, energy, vitamins, and minerals, and helps to increase digestibility of forages. This supports fetal programming for the calf in utero and cow body condition scores. Both directly contribute to your herd's performance and profitability. So don't let nutrition be the missing piece. Head to westwayfeed.com. How to get healthier calves and more dollars in your pocket using Pharmatan.
Coccidia control, and then excellent with that transition to solid feed and seeing their weights really hold up as they put cattle through their weaning ration.
ImageneIngredients.com, home of Pharmatan. Cattle Battle. Welcome back to the Ranch It Up radio show. It's the most information packed into a 30-minute program that you can find. It's your all things ranching newscast, and so glad to be with y'all. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, rants, it doesn't matter. Give us a call, or you can text us, 707-RANCH-20. That's 707-726-2420. You can email us, ranchitupshow@gmail.com. Prowling around social media at Ranch It Up Show. Now, we got a good one for y'all today. Let's set this up for you. Beck and I have been repairing some barbed wire fence that has been neglected for many years, to say the least. You all know where I'm going with this one. You know, when you stretch the old rusty wire and it breaks a million times and you can't make a splice to save your life? Rip it all out and build new is what lots of you will say. Or is there another way? And we know that there's a major cost involved with that. We have an area where the fence just gets hammered and ripped down by the snow. So do we really want to rebuild new in that area? We've talked a lot about it. Well, since we are into rotational grazing, should we take this up a notch and try intensive grazing, moving cattle every few weeks or few days, or grazing them on an electric fence, aka hot wire? I don't have a whole lot of experience with this, so today this is probably more for me than anyone, as I reached out to rancher, businessman, entrepreneur Trevor Burian from western North Dakota. I follow Trevor on social media, and he's always updating his Facebook and TikTok with videos on his grazing practices and management strategies. And I got to brag on Trevor and his wife, because they are innovative and visionary enough to try to maximize efficiency at every corner of their operation. Literally, he has tried and failed and tried and been successful. So, Trevor, it's great to have you back on the program. Now that you know what Beck and I are up against, let's talk about hot wire training cattle. You've done it, so how do you do it? Do you just turn them loose in a pasture or a paddock and let the fun begin until the critters learn what the hot wire is?
Well, I guess it all depends on your context. Let's say if you had a cow herd and had them in close quarters and you had good barbed wire fence, say for calving, or if you're even in a feedlot situation, that's a great time to introduce cattle to polywire just by offsetting a polywire maybe 5-10 feet inside one of the fences, and they're going to bump up against it, and they're going to know what it is, and they're going to learn to respect it. And then you could kick them out on pasture and probably have pretty good luck right away with even having them on all four sides. Single wire, in our context, when we're getting in cattle, custom grazing cattle, we took in 3 groups this year, 2 groups of 450 and 1 of 500. They haven't seen polywire or high tensile wire or any kind of hot wire before. So, and we don't have them. They want to get grazing right away. You know, we don't have the luxury of holding them in a lot for a couple days. So we end up having to do it out on pasture. And yeah, it could kind of be a rodeo. It takes a couple days before you can start really trusting them. What we try to do is dump them in pastures that have good existing barbed wire fences, at least a couple sides of barbed wire fences. And then just like I said, in that lot where you'd offset that hot wire, put a hot wire up 5 feet from the fence. You know, that way if they go through it, there's still a fence there, no big deal. But they'll get used to bumping into it and learn what it is. When we first get a group of cattle in, there'll be quite a few out, especially if we have 2 or 3 sides of hot wire right away. They'll get out quite a bit for the first 4 to 5, 6 hours. And then the next morning we'll come back out there. There'll probably be, you know, a few out, but already even that next morning, they're already starting to respect it. And usually by the end of day 2, we can start trusting them and get them out on some pasture with, you know, everything we have right now has all 4 sides, mixture of high tensile, hot wire, single wire, and single wire poly wire. Yeah, so we're running three herds of yearlings, 1,400 yearlings. It's going great.
You do got to kind of babysit this deal a little bit. That you got to be prepared. Like you said, you had cattle that had never been around a hot wire before. Who knows? Maybe they didn't even know a lot about barbed wire in the first place. But so you're saying be prepared if you do not have cattle that know what a hot wire is, that you're going to have a few days to maybe even a week where you're probably going to have to gather them back and you're going to have to splice some wire together and put the thing back up again.
Yeah, for sure. Especially training them out on pasture like we do. We kind of expect to have a couple, you know, pretty hectic days training them in. But then after a couple days, we move our cattle with polywire at least twice a day. So we're visiting each group twice a day. So, you know, we're checking them and quite often, you know, at least a couple times a day to make sure they're where they're supposed to be and to move them into the new paddocks, but yeah, it's definitely got a plan on a couple days of training them in.
So is, using this phrase, is the juice worth the squeeze going through all that work, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as far as in a few different ways, as far as grazing wise, we're getting more pounds per acre of grazing off the pasture just by having them grouped tighter. They're going to utilize more of that forage instead of eating some of it all the way down and leaving some. It's going to be a nice even graze across it. And then once they do that and we move them to a new paddock, they still have access to that old paddock, but they really don't graze it much because they've grazed it, they've trampled it, there's manure and urine on it, and so they really don't graze that, but they can trail back over that, back to water, and then we kind of move like that, and we'll allow them to stay in the same pasture where they graze that first day for up to 2 weeks, and then we want to get them out of there and move them to a new pasture because after 2 weeks, that's when that regrowth starts. And overgrazing doesn't have anything to do with how much forage you take. It has to do with regrazing the plant before it's recovered. And so if we're out of that pasture within 2 weeks, that grass can start growing. They won't be regrazing that regrowth. And so we're gaining more on the front end by consuming more forage per acre. And then we're growing more forage per acre behind it by protecting that regrowth. Cost-wise, from an infrastructure standpoint, I found out last year at a rude awakening when we got a whole bunch of custom cattle yearlings, and they'd come from barbed wire, so I thought they'd respect it, and we had fairly decent barbed wire fences. But especially in the spring, those yearlings are shedding and they get to rubbing on those barbed wire fences, and you can't keep them tight. And so I discovered that pretty much all my barbed wire fences that I thought were pretty good are worthless. So we went to tearing them out and replacing it with single wire hot wire. And the cost compared to, putting up a 3 or 4 wire barbed wire fence is about 10%, or it could be even less because you don't need big, heavy H braces. We just drive pipe, doing 7/8-inch pipe on either end, and then run a single high tensile wire down that. And then instead of putting posts where you would in a 3 or 4 wire barbed wire fence, every 15 to 20 feet, we're putting in posts every 30 to 50 feet. For that hot wire. And so you don't have as many materials, don't have as many wires. And then maintenance wise, instead of, year round maintaining 3-4 strands of barbed wire, you're only maintaining 1 wire. So if it breaks, you got 1 wire to fix or if you have, like we had 2 winters ago, whole bunch of snow and it just shreds the barbed wire fences. Well, usually with that single wire hot wire, it'll just pop the insulators off and it'll lay that wire on the ground so you don't have as much wire to fix. And if you do, it's only 1 wire compared to 3 or 4. So the biggest advantage is the infrastructure cost. And there could be arguments with, how much we move cattle and how much labor we put into it, that the margin on that is slimmer than it is on the margin of cost of materials that you save.
Yeah, I can see that argument of somebody pushing that way, especially when on a lot of operations, and this being in the country where you're at, somebody, one day you literally could be seeding wheat. The next day you could be going and branding. The next day you could be doing this. I mean, you're doing about 4 different jobs all at the exact same time. So I can see of like you just saying that the labor part of it, of in your case to go out and actually physically. No, and maybe I need to ask that. Are you pulling the posts out when you're rotating to another cell per se, or you're opening that up? Do the posts stay there permanently, or are you pulling those up too?
So we have a mixture of permanent, single wire, hot wire, and then we use poly wire, and that's the stuff we roll up and have step-in posts, and we take the posts out. But on our land, generally we have a hot wire, a single wire, high tensile wire, about every quarter mile, and fence our pastures in quarter mile long strips. And then we'll use poly wire in between those quarter mile strips. And so the quarter mile strips, those are permanent, but everything in between with the poly wire, we roll up and pull out the posts.
Trevor Burian, thanks so much. Now, you can follow along his journey, which I highly recommend. TikTok users, search Hungry Man Butte Ranch. On Facebook, search Trevor Burian. And you can always reach out to Beck and I, and we'll get in contact with Trevor and try to get the 2 of 3 or 4 or 10 of you all together and come up with a strategy. Now, coming up next week, I visit more with Trevor about hot wire cattle. This time we talk cow-calf pairs on the hot wire, how to manage health, and most importantly, the water situation when it comes to changing your operation and trying new management strategies. Okay, y'all, it's time for a break. When we come back, market recaps, livestock sales, and lots more, and it's all right here on the Ranch It Up Radio Show. Why not give Gelbvieh and Balancer bulls a try this year? Raise replacement females with added fertility, increased longevity, and greater productivity. Get increased performance, improve feed efficiency, and increase the carcass merit. Maximize crossbreeding with Gelbvieh and Balancer.
Hey, it's Mark Van Zee with livestockmarket.com.
Every week we hear from one of our great partners with updates, info, schedules, reports, and everything in between when it comes to buying and selling livestock and hay online and private treaty.
Livestockmarket.com is a centralized online platform of all types of livestock, as well as hay and straw.
They brought you Tractor House and Auction Time, livestockmarket.com, on Facebook too.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
Want to add just a little bit of spice to your event, your customer appreciation supper, your banquet, your meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Well, bring in us, Beck and I, as your keynote speakers, hosts, MCs, a host couple. We'll make them laugh, even cry tears of joy. Call us today. Before you head to the next rodeo, a concert, maybe a gathering on or off the ranch, we head to Medora Boot and Western Wear.
Tigger and Beck here for Medora Boot and Western Wear. Latest Western fashion in boots, jackets, and hats.
From durable ranch wear to keeping the horses in sturdy tack, visit medoraboot.com to order.
Or better yet, plan to visit Medora, North Dakota and shop Medora Boot and Western Wear.
Again, go to medoraboot.com. You can follow on Facebook and tell them Tigger and Beck sent you. Welcome back to the Ranch It Up Radio Show. It is that time we check in with Kirk Donsbach, StoneX Financial Incorporated, to find out what's happening in the markets. Kirk, what's going on?
Tigger, as of Friday, May 24th, August feeders closed the week at 260.42.5. That's up 90 on the week, with the CME feeder index up 710 at 250.14. So good cash movement this week. That left our basis versus August futures a negative $10.85. The cattle on feed report came out. It was 99.1% versus expectations of 99.2. The placement number was 94.2% versus expectations of 94.6. And our marketed number came in at 110.1 versus expectations of 109.3. So the report came out very much as expected, almost exactly as expected. But I think it did get a little nervousness about having a surprise in the report behind us. So that should clear the way for some higher markets. June live cattle closed the week at 183.90. That's up $3 on the week, with cash trading 187 to 192 in the south and 192 in the north. Cash is definitely the leader in this market. That left the 5-area weighted average up 309 at 190.12, and the basis versus June futures a positive $6.42. So our live cattle futures are still lagging the cash market. Weekly slaughter came in at 607,000 head. That's 9,000 head more than the prior week and 18,000 head less than the same week last year. Choice boxes were up 3 at 310.45. To wrap this up, December corn closed the week at 485 3/4. That's up 8.5 on the week. Planting progress did move forward to 83% complete, with subsoil moisture looking very good. Corn may face a little weakness going forward.
Hey, all, Mark Van Zee with livestockmarket.com. Coming up this Wednesday, June 5th, we have an all-class cattle and hay online auction. Bidding opens at just $100 a head, no reserves, all lots will sell. Featured lots include 63 Black Angus bred heifers, 975 pounds. These heifers have all been AI bred to GAR Apex on April 19th and 20th. They are now running with an easy calving Gardner bull for cleanup. You'll drive the wheels off your truck before you find a fancier set of heifers than these. That's from Cooper Logan Auctions in Huntsville, Arkansas. 40 Black and Red Angus cows. They're fall calvers. They're weighing 1150, 4 to 7 years old. Second period bred to a Black Angus bull from Rafter LF Cattle Company in El Dorado Springs, Missouri. 14 Black Angus cows weighing 1150. Good bred cows. They're all 3 to 6 months bred. They're all bred to a low birth weight Angus bull. 3 to 6 years of age. They're mostly black. There's 2 Charolais and 1 Baldy from Williams Farms in Sparta, Tennessee. And then I got 102 large round alfalfa bales selling on 3 separate 34 bale lots. They're 5x6 net wrapped second cutting alfalfa. Bales weigh 1585 from Premier Asset Services in Fort Collins, Colorado. And then I got 102 large round alfalfa bales selling on 3 separate 34 bale lots. This is the third cutting from the same hay, 5x6 net wrap. These bales weigh 1836 from Premier Asset Services in Fort Collins, Colorado. Got cattle to sell? Regular online cattle auctions first and third Wednesday of every month, with hay sales every Wednesday on livestockmarket.com and auctiontime.com.
How about those heifer prices, folks? Hey, I'm Shay, and in this podcast episode, Doug Ferguson shares what to keep in mind when selling or buying heifers and how to leverage sell-by marketing strategies to create more consistent profits. Here's some wisdom shared by Doug.
The other thing, if you're going to be selling bred heifers, it doesn't matter what you like. It matters what your customer likes. And you have to bring something to market that people want to buy. And so my biggest example of this is, you breed these heifers to bulls that you're familiar with, that you know something about, that you think are great. But your customer may not agree with that.
Listen to the full story by searching for Casual Cattle Conversations on your favorite podcast player. Happy ranching, folks.
A big thanks to all of our guests, Trevor Beery and Shay Keister-Warner with Casual Cattle Conversations, Kirk Donsbach, StoneX Financial Incorporated, Mark Van Zee with livestockmarket.com.
A big thank you to our partners, ranchchannel.com, Transova Genetics, Axiota Multimin and Lactopro, Stockman's Livestock Exchange, the American Galvy Association, Imogene Ingredients, Pharmatan, Westway Feed Products, Medora Boot and Western Wear, Allied Genetic Resources, Allied Feeding Partners, livestockmarket.com, equinemarket.com, auctiontime.com, RFD TV, Wrangler, and this fine radio station. Join us again next week for the Ranch It Up radio show.